So today before the showcase starts, we gotta discuss and tackle the aftermath of Highguard, okay? We'll be quick because the showcase starts in 36 minutes. So I don't have that much time to go through this, but I will try my darndest, okay? First of all, something funny happened. Okay, to be clear, what IGN did was funny. What happened yesterday was not funny, it was sad, okay? There was a reveal that pretty much everybody at Wildlight was let go. So it seems like there is a skeleton crew that remains that will be doing support, server maintenance, that type of thing. But the core team, the developers that made Highguard, are pretty much all fired across the board. That is unfortunate. Like I said from the start, my frustration is that the people that suffer when these live service games go kaput are the employees, are the developers, not the executives that greenlit it. And my point was that something like Highguard, in my humble opinion, from the moment I saw it, I was like, this is not going to do well. From the moment I saw it. You know how you can test that? Because it was streamed live at the Game Awards. You can see my reaction in real time when I remember I turned the camera and I was like, is it just me or was that like super mid? How is that a new breed of shooter? Like, I did not understand what they were talking about, okay? In my opinion, it's too bad that so many people were laid off. I think it was avoidable if they had made like a Titanfall spiritual successor, but that's, the ship has sailed. Here we are now though. So the game is basically on life support. It's going to be shut down relatively soon when they decide to pull the plug, but that's where we're at. The funny thing that happened is that IGN decided today was an appropriate time to post their review for some reason of Highguard. So if you wanted to know what the Internet Gaming Network's opinion of Highguard is as it's dying, you can find that out now. They shared it. But what I wanted to look at, and the main reason I wanted to dedicate some time to this, is because we actually got an insider's look at what happened with Highguard. What am I talking about? Well, the former tech artist and rigger for Highguard, who has since been laid off, posted a deep dive look at his experience shipping Highguard, okay? And there's a lot of interesting little tidbits in here. Lots of interesting little tidbits. So this is somebody who worked on the game, knows what went down when they were being radio silent for a month, knows what went down with all of this stuff, okay? And is going to share it with us. Apologies for the link, but I'm wanting to say this say a lot of this for a while. The day leading up to the Game Awards 2025 was amongst the most exciting of my life. After 2.5 years of passionately working on Highguard, we were ready to reveal it to the world. The future seemed bright. Everyone I knew who had any connection to the team or project had the same sentiments. This is lightning in a bottle. I trust this team wholeheartedly. If there's one project nobody in the industry is worried will fail, it's yours. This has mainstream hit written all over it. There's no way this will flop. I could play this game all day. This is from one of the team members making the game. And he's saying this is what he was hearing from everybody associated with the project, okay? Is this level of hype, okay? This is what he's reporting they thought. And again, like, what's wild, Herman Holst on Concord, yeah, it's that level of like, this is going to be a Star Wars level hit, is reportedly what Herman was saying. It's going to be our Star Wars. Like, and again, what I find so fascinating about Highguard is that this is what they were being told by everybody working on it, by everybody around the project. And yet when it was revealed to the world at the Game Awards, the community as a whole almost unanimously was like, what? What do you mean? Maybe it was just a bad trailer. And to be honest, I think it was a bad trailer. Okay. I'm not just saying that to be like negative Nancy. I think demonstrably it didn't achieve what a trailer should do. A trailer should communicate what the game is, get people interested and excited for what it is. And this trailer achieved none of that, right? So I think demonstrably it was a bad trailer. It didn't do what trailers are supposed to do. After it was done playing, everybody was like, what even is that game? I don't understand. Like, there's a big tower that rams into the base. Like, what are we doing? There's horses. Like, all anybody could say was that it looked kind of like Concord, which is not what you want people to be saying, okay? And then when people started getting really pissy about people bringing up the Concord comparison, that just makes it even more likely that that's going to become hooked, because like, the one thing gamers love more than bashing a bad game or a game that sucks and that is a live service disaster. The one thing they like more than that is getting gaming journalists to seethe, okay? So if a bunch of gaming journalists are like, you guys are being too judgy. You're being too judgy. Don't you dare call it Concord 2. Guess what gamers are gonna do, okay? Yeah, don't poke the bear. It's a bad idea, okay? But anyway, continuing on. This is, again, just what I find fascinating is that this is what they were being told internally. This is what they were saying to each other. And the public sentiment was the polar opposite, which is fascinating. Like, how disconnected was this? How was it that they were on such polar opposite extremes? Is it toxicity? Toxicity? Is it toxic positivity? There you go, Luke. Good job. Or is there something else going on? I don't even totally understand it, to be honest. What I do know is that this is not what gamers, like the average players that would have been playing Highguard, the target audience, this is not what the target audience thought of the game when they saw it. It continues. The internal pre-reveal feedback, even from unbiased sources, I think that's, if they were telling you all this and then the average gamer responded to it so negatively, clearly there was some bias that was not being tracked. There was something that made these people that they're describing as unbiased sources that disconnected them from the opinions of the average player. But anyway, it was quite positive, and where it was negative, it was constructive and often actionable. This, I think, is what's tricky. I've spoken to some devs and people that work on projects like this, and they said the toughest thing is when there's negative feedback that isn't actionable. In other words, there's something like, this is just not going to work. Players aren't going to like this. Because what do? Like the devs, it's above their pay grade. You know, like that Guerrilla Horizon live service game. People look at that and they're like, I don't think Horizon players are going to like this. I think this is a bad idea. That's not really actionable, because it's coming from on high. They can't do anything about that. You know, it's not up to them to cancel the project and go make Horizon 3. It's not up to Rocksteady, though reportedly it was their idea. But hypothetically, it wasn't the individual like animators' fault that Rocksteady fans were going to be pissy about Suicide Squad. You know, that's the thing. Eric, think of that. This is the same thing as playing a show and everyone says you were amazing, but every time you draw only 20 or only 12 people every time you're booked. Good high school rock band times, dude, for real. Yeah. No, it basically is that same thing. It's a captive audience that is hyping it up. People who played the game, including us, had a blast. And since we were independent, self-published studio built with royalties in mind, many of us were hoping this could finally be the thing that broke the millennial financial curse. But then the trailer came out and it was all downhill from there. Content creators love to point out the bias in folks who give positive previews after being flown out for an event, but ignore the fact that when their negative leaning content gets 10 times the engagement of the positive, they've got just as much incentive to lean into a disingenuous direction, whether consciously or not. Here's the thing. We just did a deep dive look. Okay. We just did a deep dive look on Crimson Desert and how good that game looks, because it's wildly impressive. That is a very upbeat and positive video. Okay. Like very positive impression of that game. And if you look at even just our stream clips, okay, even just our stream clips, like we have videos discussing, like this video is basically defending GTA 6 hype levels. What a preview. This video is on Highguard discussing the layoffs and everything that happened. This video is discussing Hunter's Gathering and how I'm not really impressed by it. And I think it's probably not going to do too great. That's got 66,000 views. But you know what has higher views? The videos discussing like Crimson Desert looking really, really good. The videos discussing like the dev interview, well, not technically dev, the PR head interview for that. I've talked a lot about how Fable looks phenomenal, talking about God of War Egypt, talking about all these other things that are very, very positive. And I think that like the assumption is that being negative about a game that's good will therefore lead to 10 times the views. Like if a game, let's just say a game is fine, it's a C+. The insinuation is that, well, if I'm negative about it, the video will do 10 times the views. Whereas if I like it, I'm positive, the video will do barely any. And that, in my experience, is just not true. If the game sucks and I call it out for sucking and I point out why and how it sucks, those videos do well Because people often, more than anything, like audiences in the gaming sector are looking for someone to put into words what they feel instinctually. Okay. It's much less about tell me what to think. It's more about something's off with Suicide Squad. Help me understand what's off. And they watch the video and they're like, yes, okay, yeah, exactly. You know, it's putting into words what they feel, right? And I think that that's much more impactful. You know, Caleb, thank you for that. Hey, Luke, don't let the fact that over twice the population of Highguard is watching you live make you nervous. That's filthy. Also, can't believe that according to Reddit, you personally killed both Concord and Highguard, you monster. Oh, is that what the agreement is? Okay. Thank you for the 20, buddy. But like, this is the thing. I just, in my experience, being positive about a game that looks good does just as well as being negative about a game that looks bad. Okay? That's just how it is. It's how it is. If the game looked phenomenal, all the videos would have been positive because people would be like, yeah, that looks great. Do you see what happens when people make like a negative video about a game that everybody loves? It doesn't tend to go over too well. Like, try to make a video saying Elden Ring is actually super boring and the combat sucks and all the bosses' designs suck. Like, see how well that video goes over for you, okay? Being negative about something that doesn't correlate, it doesn't work. The payoff is not there. But I think what's happening is that some of these types are looking at the 0.1% channels that are just like rage baiters, and they try to balloon that up as though that's the general gaming discourse, when that's just not it. It's hard for people to believe who had the impression that this was going to be the next big thing. It's hard for them to believe that the average player did not agree with that, but they just didn't. Okay. Like, you were in the minority. You didn't realize it. And I think that, you know, that's borne out. It's why people being like, nobody gave Highguard a chance. I don't think that's true at all. Okay. I don't think that's true at all. You can see the all-time player peak on Steam alone. It was higher if you count console players and stuff. 97,000 players. Estimated downloads and installs, if you take the average across VG Insights, Game Analytic, and Play Tracker, is roughly 1 million installs just on Steam. They tried it and they didn't like it. They left. I tried it. I thought it was like pretty poorly optimized. It didn't run very well. And it was kind of boring. Frankly, I just didn't see where the fun was. It didn't click with me at all, so I moved on. Especially being free to play, there's no incentive for me to keep going, so I moved on. And that's how it was for most people who tried it. Demonstrably, the data proves it. This isn't a question. People did try it, and they didn't like it. At least not enough to keep playing. Okay, so the idea that people dismissed it out of hand, I just don't buy. But anyway, continuing. The hate started immediately. In addition to dogpiling on the trailer, I personally came under fire due to my naivete on Twitter, which almost all of my now former coworkers had learned to avoid during their previous game launches. Yeah, I will never, ever defend or justify like the hate mobbing that happens to devs. My point for Highguard is that as a concept, it never made sense. And I don't think as a concept, it was ever going to satisfy the expectations that the budget and scale of this game demanded. I just think as a product, it was one that probably shouldn't have been made. I just don't think it made sense. But that's just me. You should not be going to dev Twitter accounts and bashing them. If it's like a PR person and you ask a question about a game, okay, that makes sense. Like, sure, ask questions about the game. If it's like a studio head and you're asking about design decisions, okay, I mean, if they're on Twitter, they're probably open to that dialogue. Okay, but going to like an animation person or a tech artist and like sending them all sorts of nasty stuff, that's ridiculous. Nobody should ever do that. After setting my Twitter account to private to protect my sanity, many content creators made videos and posts about me and my cowardice, amassing millions of views and inadvertently sending hundreds of angry gamers into my replies. They laughed at me for being proud of the game, told me to get out the McDonald's applications, and mocked me for listing having I can't read, and mocked me for listing having autism in my bio, which they seemed to think was evidence the game would be woke trash, quote unquote. All of this was very emotionally taxing. I can imagine. It's why when I talked about devs in that video, I didn't show any of their names or anything. I was like, I tried to see if any of them have talked about the game, but they all went on social media lockdown, as I think they probably should have. And I would never like try to dox devs like that. Like, it just doesn't make sense. Continuing on, there is much constructive criticism that can be and has been said about Highguard's trailer, marketing, and launch, but I don't think it's my place to commentate on that. I also don't think there's any way to know whether the launch would have fared better or worse without the massive spotlight that was thrown onto us in response to the Game Awards trailer placement, but we never got that chance. Yeah, personally, I think this number would have been lower, but I think the outcome would have been the same. I think the peak would have been maybe 10,000 players, but I don't think the numbers would have typically changed. I think it would have pretty much landed the same way, personally. But yeah, we'll never know for sure. I think it helped the overall player count. I don't think it helped expectations, you know. But the problem is, like, people being like, well, if they didn't have the spotlight, then they could have slowly built up. Dude, the game came out 2 weeks ago and they're already shutting the studio down. So I don't think they had that much cash on hand. I think they were expecting a big splash success, and that's what I mean. They're describing it as like, this is going to be mainstream, this is going to blow up, this is going to be like Overwatch, you know, levels of success, mainstream success, and it just wasn't there. We were turned into a joke from minute one, largely due to false assumptions about $1 million ad placement. Yeah, that's where I think the Jeff choice to place it there was a mistake. And this is the other thing, I don't know why they did not come out and disclose and clarify that they did not pay for that place. I don't know why they didn't do that. My suspicion is because typically that place is paid for. And I'm guessing they didn't want to disclose it because they didn't want people to know that you could get that for free. So I'm guessing that's why they didn't. But it was later revealed that no, they did not. You know, they finally came out and it was made known. But I don't know why they didn't come out the day after and just say they did not pay for that spot. You know, I don't know why they didn't just clarify. Within minutes, it was decided this game was dead on arrival and content creators now had free rage bait content for a month. Every one of our videos on social media got downvoted to hell. Comment sections were flooded with copy paste meme phrases such as Concord 2 and Titanfall 3 died for this. I mean, they are memes. They are memes. Indeed. At launch, we received over 14,000 review bombs from users with less than an hour of playtime. Many didn't even finish the required tutorial. This one, I've heard people bring up. They're like, there was one guy who was like, if you filter reviews by 5+ hours played, the reviews are actually mostly positive. Like, bro, of course. If you like a game, you will play more of it. If you don't like a game, especially a free-to-play game, you will stop playing it. This is not rocket science. Like, yes, if I play a game and I think it's not fun, I'll get through a little bit of it. And if I'm like, oh God, the performance is bad, I'm going to shut it down. I'm not bothering. It's free to play. I'm going to go boot up something else. Because that's how that works. That's how that works. You know, this is, again, it's not rocket science, but the insinuation is that it was people that were just, you know, jumping on for the sake of hating it. I think there were people out there who were still bashing it, never tried installing it, never tried booting it up. Sure. But there's approximately 1 million people who did try it, you know? And they, again, if the game was good, they would have played it and liked it, but they didn't like it. In discussions online about Highguard, Concord 2, XKO and such, it is often pointed out by gamers that devs like to blame gamers for their failures. And that's silly, as if gamers have no power, but they do, a lot of it. I'm not saying our failure is purely the fault of gamer culture and that the game would have thrived without the negative discourse, but it absolutely played a role. I'm not saying I blame the gamers, but like, it is kind of their fault. At least a good bit of it is their fault. Like, you know how I feel about this type of thing. You know how I feel about this. All products are at the whims of the consumers, and the consumers put absurd amounts of effort into slandering Highguard, and it worked. Bro, it's your job, not his job specifically. It's the company's job to convince me the product is good and that I should either buy it or engage with it. You're not entitled to my time. You're not entitled to any of your time. You're not entitled to it. You're just not. Like, again, the example I gave yesterday is that if I go to a restaurant and I look at the menu and I'm like, oh, this all looks bad. I'll just have a nice water. And then the chef comes out and is like, Why didn't you order the pig snout sandwich served on a car tire? I'm like, because it looked bad, sir. It looked bad. I saw the description of it. I saw your pitch and I didn't like it. So I'm going to go get McDonald's because I like it. I know I like it. I've had McDonald's for years and I like it. So I'm going to go get that. Tried and true. You're just being hateful. Like, I don't know why my French accent always turns into Steve Martin in Pink Panther. But like, again, it's just insane to think that gamers should automatically give like a multi-million-dollar company the benefit of the doubt and just like, this isn't preschool. Okay. You're trying to sell me something that has like $30 skins. You're trying to sell me on a live service game that I need to convince my friends to move over to and give up on the current one we're playing to move over to this one. Like, you're not entitled to it. You're just not entitled to it. But that's what the impression is. And when you start to see how he's like, I'm not blaming gamers, but you know, it played a role. I'm like, bro, your job was to make something that I should want to play and you demonstrably failed at it. Again, not just you as the individual technical artist. I'm saying the company as a whole. And that's what's so interesting is that the question of the players very rarely comes into the consideration. Like, it's always coming down to, well, we had people that we spoke to who really liked it and they said this has mainstream hit written all over it. I wonder which one of these is Jeff's comment. You know, like, and at no point did they pause and go like, is this really the right choice? Like, are people going to connect with this, or are we overhyping it? Are we like, we should be careful. Zeitz on YouTube, thank you for that super chat. We'd rather spend time playing good games than bashing bad ones, but if publishers and devs are going to waste our time with a mediocre product they say is the next coming of Todd, they should be prepared for an uproar. And I think that overpromising absolutely was part of why the expectations were raised. And then when it failed to meet that, and then they didn't pivot their marketing strategy and just went radio silent for a month, everybody assumed that the game was either canceled or abandoned or something. And that's not what you want people to be saying about your game that you think is going to be the next breed of shooter. Like, and again, I just get the feeling it's what we saw with gaming journalists. And we've also seen it, you know, even from some of these devs where it's described as like this contemptuous feeling, this entitlement to player time. And I just find it really, really distasteful. I feel for the devs. I don't think its failure is their fault, to be very clear. I don't think any of them are responsible for Highguard failing, and I'm sorry that they lost their jobs. I don't think it's their fault. I think it's the fault of whoever greenlit spending tens upon tens of millions of dollars on something that I don't think was ever going to find a foothold. And the fact that the moment it was shown, the internet collectively was like, what are you smoking? Shows how out of touch they were with the average player. You know, it's just, there's a lot of evidence stacking up. Hey, are we out of touch? Do we not know what our players want? Do we not know what people expect anymore? And are we being unreasonable and expecting them to play this game in this state? Or is it Asmon's fault? Yeah, I like this one. Like, it's just like, I don't know how he covered it, but I've seen so many people claim that, you know, it's one streamer, it's one YouTuber that caused this whole thing to explode. And it's like, if your game was that shaky and weak, it probably wasn't that good to begin with, you know? If your company can implode within 2 weeks of launching your product, it probably wasn't the healthiest or most responsibly run company. If my company spends weeks working or months working on a YouTube video, it launches, doesn't do very well, and then I fire everybody, it probably, I might have messed up a little bit. Might be a little bit of me. Just a little bit. Anyway, many of Wildlife's former devs will now be forced to assimilate back into the actual corporate industry many gamers accused Wildlife of being a part of. I mean, it did seem, what I saw one person describe it as is they were like, you left a big multi-billion-dollar corporation in the form of EA that owns Respawn. You left them to make a game that looks exactly like something they would make. So yeah. Now every time someone thinks about leaving the golden handcuffs behind in favor of making a new multiplayer game the indie way, they'll say, is it indie, bro? Like, it's $100+ developers, is it not? Like, this was tens upon tens of millions of dollars. Like, this was not a small endeavor. They'll say, quote, but remember how gamers didn't even give Wildlight a chance? They did. They saw your trailer and didn't like it. I feel like I'm taking crazy pills. Like, it's not like they saw a great trailer and went like, no, I've decided that sucks. They watched your trailer and didn't like it. Dude, I'm finna crash out right now, dude. Soon, if this pattern continues, all that will be left are corporations, at least in the multiplayer space. Innovation is on life support. What was the innovation in Highguard? Like, that's one of the critiques of it, is that it's like 5 different games squished together, but does none of those things well. Like, I don't understand. Maybe that should just be the title. I don't understand. Mike, thank you for that. I loved Highguard and watched friends of mine turn into hateful, mocking gremlins. Some played for 2 whole minutes on launch to review bomb it. I get your point, but this was not organic hate either. I guess I wonder what organic hate is. Like, what exactly is that? Like, if I think what you're describing is like bandwagoning, where people see that, hey, people or this group collectively really doesn't like this thing. Maybe it's justified, maybe it's not, but I'm gonna jump in and, yeah, no, it is buggy. Okay, I'm gonna leave a bad review or something, and then they jump on the bandwagon at that point. I guess I don't know what like organic hate would look like, you know, non-GMO hate. Exactly. Anyway, we'll finish it out. Even if Highguard had a rocky launch, our independent, self-published, dev-led studio full of passionate people just trying to make a fun game with zero AI, zero corporate oversight deserved better than this. We deserved the bare minimum of not having our downfall be gleefully manifested. I can't speak for everybody. I was not trying to manifest anything. I just thought it was thoroughly confusing how you reveal a trailer that everybody dislikes. The hype, like you're trying to set the standard. This is like the next generation, like massive thing. And people tried it or saw the trailer, didn't like it. And then there's no pivot. So people thought until like the week before Highguard, they thought that it was canceled and abandoned because there was zero communication. There was even that one guy. Do you guys remember this? There was the one guy who went on Blue Sky and made a fake Highguard account and started sending out whatever they call them on Blue Sky, posts pretending to be the devs and stuff, because there was such radio silence. He was able to do that, you know? I wish the best of luck to the few who remain at Wildlight and hope Highguard can stay the course. I still believe in it, and so do the fans we reached who continue to champion it on the subreddit, Discord, Twitch, and on social media. And even though this adventure has come to an abrupt and emotionally challenging close, I don't regret 1 second of it. Also, I just wanted to shout out some incredibly supportive journalists and creators who genuinely made a night and day difference in enduring the last 2 months. All of these folks deserve far more credit than they get for their empathy, intuition, and integrity. And then lists some people. Sorry. I realized some of the people that he put on there. So here's the deal. Again, I feel for the people that worked on this and poured years of their life into it. Again, my position has been from the start that this as a concept never made sense. And I think from the moment it was greenlit, it was doomed to fail. I just don't understand how they would collect the amount of money that they needed to do this. And then they did it for years. And then hearing that he's describing how they were being told that I'm not afraid at all of the studio failing. I'm not worried at all. I think it's going to go great. It's just wild. Empathy for a bad game. It's important to have empathy for people, but I think the disconnect is that this is a product at the end of the day. This is a business, and a very competitive one at that. And you shouldn't feel empathy for a product. You know, when Xbox raises prices, so they're asking you to pay $800 for a console, you shouldn't have empathy for the product. That's insane. That's stupid. Okay? Like, it just doesn't make sense in my brain. You should, like, I think where the disconnect comes up is with how some of these devs were certainly mistreated by certain creators or communities or whoever. They should not have had people reaching out to them, sending them messages, hateful comments and stuff. That should never, ever happen. I would hope nobody would ever defend that. That's terrible. If somebody's working on a game that isn't coming together, it just doesn't look very good, the devs should not be getting like hate online. Like, that's ridiculous. We all agree, I would hope. But at the end of the day, like, I think the tale of Highguard is going to be one of total disconnection, really. Like, it's pretty clear to me that whoever they were getting feedback from was also disconnected from what the average player, what their target audience would have thought of the product, because I think any one of them could have seen it and told them about it and like waved the red flag. But at the end of the day, I mean, it's too little too late. Too little too late. I do not understand how they could possibly be saying stuff like, I would not be worried about your game flopping at all. Like, I don't understand that. I just don't get that. That's crazy, man. That's actually crazy.